What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, every NFL franchise has their guys that they lean on in order to win football games, in order to make it to the playoffs, to make it to the Super Bowl, and obviously win that Super Bowl. And the Lions are no exception to that. The Detroit Lions have their guys that they're going to lean on next season in order to close out football games, to get leads, to score points, and shut out the opposing team. But who are those guys? We haven't really talked about that so far. Yesterday we did a video talking about, ranking the position groups for the Detroit Lions, but just because the position group is the best on the team doesn't necessarily mean that those players are the most important. Like, for example, the wide receivers were number 1 yesterday when it came to the positional group ranking, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Kenny Golladay is the most important player on the team when it comes to contributing to team success. Now, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. The 5 players that I believe will have the biggest impact on the Detroit Lions in terms of record and, outcome of football games. So, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying the content, consider liking the videos, subscribing to the channel, and sharing with a Lions or an NFL fan that you believe would enjoy this type of content. But with that being said, let's get right into talking about the 5 most important players for the Detroit Lions going into the 2020 season. Now, number 5 isn't really a player because we don't know who's going to be playing at these positions. But I said the offensive line, and in particular, the unknowns of the offensive line, because we know what Taylor Decker is going to do. We know what Frank Ragnow is going to do, but we don't know who's going to play our guards or our right tackle position for 100%. And in order to win football games in the NFL, you need a good offensive line. In order to win football games in the NFL, you need to be able to protect your quarterback and run the football. And the Detroit Lions haven't really been able to do that throughout Stafford's career. Now, the last couple of years, they haven't been very bad. Last year, they gave up 42 sacks, which ranked 13th in the NFL, so a little bit above average, but I wouldn't say that's a good offensive line. And then we ranked 11th by Pro Football Focus, which again is above average, but isn't really, that upper tier of offensive line either. So last year it was okay. The offensive line wasn't horrible. It wasn't fantastic, but it was serviceable. I would say it was one of the better offensive line Matthew Stafford has actually had in his career. And that's saying something because Matthew Stafford has not had a very good offensive line throughout his entirety of his career. He's been sacked 347 times in his career. That averages out to about 2.3 sacks a football game. Now, that is a horrendous number. You cannot give up 2.5 sacks on your quarterback every single game throughout their entirety of their career, because they're eventually going to break down. Their bodies are going to get worn out. They're going to get injured. And I'm not saying Stafford is at the point where he's going to get injured every season, every time he gets touched or anything, because he's been the warrior for the Detroit Lions. Every time he's gotten punched, every time he's gotten hit and knocked down, he's gotten up and hit back. And that's why I love him as our quarterback. He's a tough guy. He's going to play as much as he can every single season for the Detroit Lions. Unless the injury is serious and he cannot play with it, then he's going to play for you, and he's going to do everything in his power to help you win a football game. But unfortunately, the offensive line hasn't been good for Stafford throughout his career, and it needs to be good in order to win football games, as I said. Every single team that makes it to the Super Bowl, every single team that wins playoff games has a good run game and has a good offensive line to protect the quarterback and open up holes in the run game. And that is something the Detroit Lions are going to need if they want to be a competitive team in the 2020 season. Now, moving on to the 4th spot, I have Kerryon Johnson here. Now, we all know that Matthew Stafford has a very good record when he has a 100-yard rusher. In fact, his overall record with a 100-yard rusher is 8-2. So he has won 8 games with a 100-yard rusher and only lost 2, which is a ridiculous number, not only in the fact that he has such a high winning percentage, but the fact that he's only had 10 100-yard rushers in his entirety of his career. I mean, that's unacceptable from a franchise standard, but at this point in his career, he has 2 very good running backs who could definitely go for 100 yards in any given game in Kerryon and DeAndre Swift. But we're going to focus on Kerryon for this one because he's an NFL veteran and we've seen him in the NFL. And when he's healthy and he is on, he is a integral part of this offense. The Detroit Lions are trying to transition to be a run-first team, and in order to do that, you need running backs to be healthy. You need running backs to be on the field, and that's really Kerryon's only concern. Throughout his career, Kerryon Johnson averages about 4.5 yards a carry, which is a very good number to average in a career. His only problem, as I said, is he cannot stay healthy, and that is why we got DeAndre Swift to help take a little bit of the load off of him. But Kerryon Johnson is going to have to be the engine of this offense. He's going to have to be the bell cow. He's going to have to take carries, and he's going to have to take hits and dish them out. He's going to have to stay on the field for the Detroit Lions. Now, while I have faith in DeAndre Swift, I don't think that he can carry this offense alone as a rookie. I think he's going to need Kerryon Johnson there to not only take a load off of him, but, just to balance that out, be a good combination with one another. Put Kerryon in for a couple plays and then switch to DeAndre Swift. They play very different football, and, switching them around, rotating them is going to really not confuse defenses, but it's going to make it hard because as soon as you think you prepare for Kerryon Johnson, DeAndre Swift is going to come out and do something completely different, and you're not ready for that. So I think that they are important to each other, and I think both of them are going to need to stay healthy for this roster, but especially Kerryon Johnson, because as an NFL veteran, really this is one of his last years to prove that he should be on the Detroit Lions, one of the last years that he has to prove that he can stay healthy and be a huge part of this offense. And I think that if he stays healthy the entire season and is playing like the Kerryon Johnson that we know he can be, I think this offense, especially this rushing offense, can have a huge impact for the Detroit Lions in 2020. Now, looking at the number 3 spot, I have Danny Shelton, the free agent acquisition from the New England Patriots on the defensive line. Now, in 2018, the Detroit Lions had a top 10 defense, and they were, holding opponents to very low scores. They weren't giving up a lot of points, and they were really held back by their offense in 2018, while the defense really carried the team to a lot of their victories. And last year, it was kind of the opposite. The offense carried the defense struggled mightily. But what was the difference? In my opinion, it was Snacks Harrison. In 2018, Snacks had 81 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and commanded double teams on every single play. He was a huge threat in the run game. He was a huge threat to get, he had such great power, such great burst off the line. And if you did not double team him, if you put a guy 1v1 with Snacks Harrison in 2018, 9 times out of 10, Snacks Harrison was going to beat that guy, so you needed to double team him. He's forced double teams, which gave guys like Romeo Okwara and Devon Kennard and guys on the outside edge rushers a better opportunity for their 1v1s to beat and get pressure. However, last season, Snacks Harrison regressed mightily. He only had 49 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks, and really wasn't that commanding force. He really wasn't commanding double teams. He wasn't playing at a super high level, and a lot of times those 1v1s with Snacks Harrison ended in Snacks losing those games. Or losing those reps. It was more of a 50-50, and Snacks really wasn't that dominant force that we've seen him be for the New York Giants, and we saw him be for the Detroit Lions in 2018, and I think that's part of the reason that we released him. And then we went out and got Danny Shelton. Now, I think Danny Shelton is going to step in and be much better than what Snacks Harrison was last year for the Detroit Lions. I think he can have a very similar season to what Snacks did in 2018. And with that, commanding those double teams, that's going to leave guys like Julian Okwara and Trey Flowers open on 1v1s and Romeo Okwara out for 1v1s. And that's going to help their production just skyrocket. I mean, if Damon Snacks Harrison can make a guy like Romeo Okwara look elite with 7.5 sacks leading the team, what do you think he's going to do with a guy? What do you think that the Detroit Lions defense is going to do if they have a guy playing like Snacks Harrison did in 2018, but with a edge rusher like Trey Flowers, an edge rusher, an athletic freak in Julian Okwara, who's just a rookie, but I believe will have a huge role to play in this defense. And I mean, I just feel like the defensive line, the edge rushers are better than 2018. So if we can get interior defensive line play like we had in 2018 that frees up guys on the edge, I think that this pass rush is going to be so much better. And historically, for the Lions to make the playoffs, for the Detroit Lions to be competitive, they need a huge pass rush. They need a huge defensive line performance throughout the season in order to force mistakes, to force turnovers, and really make them a dominant defense. Now, looking at the number 2 spot, I have Doron Harmon, a free agent acquisition from the Patriots again. Well, not a free agent. We traded for him in this past offseason, and one of the Detroit Lions' biggest problems last year is they could not close games. In fact, if the Detroit Lions had held on to their fourth quarter leads last year, they would have gone 10-6 and made the playoffs as the 6th seed. Now, what is Doron Harmon known for? His nickname is literally the closer because he closes out football games. If you're up by a score, or if you're up by a touchdown or a field goal and there's 2 minutes left on the clock and the opposing offense needs to go and score a touchdown to win the football game, I have faith that Doron Harmon is going to stop them because he's done that throughout his whole career. Now, while Doron Harmon has never been a full-time starter, he's never gone a year without an interception. And all of his interceptions come in clutch situations where the Patriots need a stop, whether it is to close out the football game or to get back in the football game where you're down by a field goal and you need a turnover to get your offense back on the field to score. That is what Doron Harmon does best. He thrives in clutch situations. He's going to close out football games for the Detroit Lions, which is something they did not do last year. And when you bring in a guy like this who is going to close football games for you, who is going to single-handedly win you football games, he has to make it on this list, because I guarantee you there are going to be 2 or 3 games this year that Doron Harmon by himself closes out and gets victories for the Detroit Lions. I can almost guarantee it because he did it every single week with the New England Patriots. And then, of course, looking at the number one, the most important player for the Detroit Lions is, of course, our quarterback, our commander-in-chief, number 9, Matthew Stafford. I think the only stat that needs to be said here is that we went 0-8 without Matthew Stafford. We could not win a game without him last season, and that is why he's the most important player to this roster. But that's kind of easy to say. That's kind of simple. So let's look at a little bit more. Now, Matthew Stafford throughout his career elevates guys around him. I mean, no matter who he's playing with, he elevates the running backs, he elevates the wide receivers, he elevates everybody on this offense to be better than what they would be without Matthew Stafford. Obviously, the 0-8 without him proves that he is a vital part of this offense, and he is really the engine that makes it all work. And without Matthew Stafford, the Detroit Lions really don't have a huge shot at winning a lot of football games. But Matthew Stafford is just the engine to this offense. I mean, he elevates everybody on the roster. Look at guys like Theo Riddick. Look at guys like Amir Abdullah. Look at guys like J.D. McKissick. None of these guys are household names. None of these guys are huge running backs in the NFL. None of these guys are known for being fantastic football players. But Matthew Stafford made them work. Matthew Stafford made them very good players. Theo Riddick was a very productive running back for the Detroit Lions when he was here, and a lot of that has to do with Matthew Stafford. Looking at the wide receivers, Marvin Jones, while being a good wide receiver in Cincinnati, he was a number 2. He came to Detroit, and Matthew Stafford pretty much made him the number 1 when he got here, and got replaced by Kenny Golladay, a 3rd-round pick, who, now, in hindsight, we know that he is a fantastic player, but would he be as good without a guy like Matthew Stafford to help him and, really, help Kenny Golladay out in his early seasons? Obviously, now we know even with backup quarterbacks, Kenny Golladay can ball out and get, 10, 11 touchdowns. But would Kenny Golladay have developed the same without Matthew Stafford being the leader that he is? With Matthew Stafford elevating and really helping Kenny Golladay out as a young wide receiver to be the number 1 weapon on this Detroit Lions team? I don't think so. I still think Kenny Golladay would have been a fine wide receiver, but I think Matthew Stafford elevated Kenny Galladay's game to the next level, and that is why we view Kenny Golladay as a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. It's because Stafford was there to help him and help him grow into the NFL and help him grow into a star. Now, those are my 5 guys. Those are the 4 people and 1 positional group that I believe are the most imperative in order for the Detroit Lions to have success next season. If I missed out on anybody, or if if you have anybody else that you would like to add to this list and replace somebody else, obviously leave those down in the comments below, because I'd love to hear what you guys, or who you guys think are the most important players on this roster in order for the Detroit Lions to have success next season. Those were my 5. I just feel like if all of these things go right, if the offensive line plays well, if Kerryon's healthy and playing like the old Kerryon, if Doron Harmon is out there closing out games, if Matthew Stafford is healthy and competing in every single football game, and if Danny Shelton can play like snacks, I don't see a reality where this Detroit Lions team doesn't make the playoffs. Because if all those things go well, we're gonna be a force on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. We're gonna be tough to beat, and we're gonna be looked at as one of the better teams in the NFC North, or in the NFC as a whole. And we can't be messed with. You have to prepare for the Detroit Lions, because if you don't, you're gonna get eaten. But with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If there is Lions just before tomorrow, I will obviously make a video letting every single person know. But until then, as I said, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic day. And that is all I have for you guys right now. Thank you all so very much for watching. As I said, if you are new to the channel and are enjoying the content, consider liking the videos and subscribe to the channel. That helps push it out, bring new people in. It takes 2 seconds out of your day to make mine, so consider doing that on your way out. But with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Have a fantastic day, and thank you all so very much for watching this video. I will see all of you tomorrow.